So, I'm going to do some mill turning today. I'm going to work on making some more of these. They're an inner bearing adapter. And basically how it works is this is the stock spindle. It had a spacer down here. That comes off. That will get Loctited onto the thing, and then it allows for a much more modern bearing, one that's available. The stock bearing for these old Datsun trucks is they're not available anymore. So that's the gist of the part. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm starting in on cutting the blanks. Okay, this is 2 1/4 with a 1/2 inch wall, DOM. So it's got an 1 1/4 hole in the center. I'm cutting it to just over 1 1/4 long, and this is what it'll become in the end. And granted, I realize that I've shown this stuff before multiple times. So, the people, subscribers and that stuff who have seen it before and watched it, there's probably not going to be anything new. Okay, maybe a little on the mill turning. But I also realize there's a lot of new subscribers, and I don't expect them to go back through 600-something videos and watch this stuff. So I'm just sharing what I'm doing in the shop here, and this is what I'm doing in the shop. So I've already cut about half of this stuff, so that locks the blade so it holds. I pull it up against the stop, push it down, and alright, so before they come to the lathe, I hit them on the belt sander to knock off the big burr that was on there and clean it up just to make sure that it didn't get caught somewhere in the jaw and throw it out of whack. So I just lightly hold it up against the back and let the jaws straighten it back out, because the bandsaw doesn't cut it very square. That's it. Stack them up. What I'm looking to do here is the lathe chuck will be up in the spindle upside down there. And how I make this part, this backside here, this nice radius, that's all operation 2. What that does is that allows me in the distance here from this flat inner bore to the end, I can grab it in the lathe chuck. So my boring bar is going to come up pretty darn close to that while it's in there and cut the bore. The reason I do that is it allows me to grab it back here, and I can cut the entire outside, even put the fillets on here, and then I can come in and I can do the bore inside and even a slight fillet in there too, basically just to get rid of the burr. That makes everything here perfectly concentric, and that's the part I want concentric, because how it sits on here. Now the reality is the bearing could move around on there a little bit, within a few thou. I wouldn't want to move it too much, because then it can change the hub on there a little bit. But this backside, this radius here, the stock ones have a chamfer instead of a radius. I did a radius just to keep that much more meat on the part, and it looks cooler, but it's not extremely important. Okay, I do want this flat, fairly accurate, perpendicular to all these other surfaces. But the reality is when it goes on there, it's all going to settle in nice. And this one's a little loose because I use it for testing, but the others are a slip fit. They just don't have quite that much slop in them. Anyway, the point of that is the less slop means that once it's on there, it'll register more to the spindle and the bore than it will to the back. Okay, and that's where all the load is, on here, not pushing into here. The spindle nuts really aren't tightened down that tight. Blah blah blah. I'll spend the whole video rambling. I thought I'd give you a closer up look here. This is basically a machinable arbor. Okay, so it's got a 3/4 inch shaft, and before I had the mill, I would just clamp that 3/4 inch shaft into the chuck on the lathe. Okay, and this is how I would hold them for op 2. This is just a spacer that I keep on here because I just changed how I was doing it, kind of thing, and so then I needed the part to sit further down instead of all the way up. And so that is machined to fit the ID bore that's finished from op 1. Okay, I don't need the fillet to be absolutely perfect, but I want it really close, and it does come out really, really close. Okay, so there's an Allen screw in the bottom here, and well, you know, when you're doing them one after another, it doesn't take near as long to find, but okay, that's cinched down. Alright, this is just kind of an establishing shot, so you can see that I'm way down here next to the chip tray, trying to get an angle up underneath there for this for the second operation on the inner bearing adapters. Well, these were the practice parts. I spent a lot of time trying to get the surface finish dialed in on op 2. Okay, like op 1 got it dialed in real nice. Okay, I now have op 2 dialed in, but I was fighting a lot of stuff like just a little bit of, let it focus in there. Come on, where are you? There we go. Little bit of chatter there. And these were all parts that op 1 didn't quite come out correct on as I was doing all the adjustments and that stuff. So yes, there was a lot of friggin' waste here, but a lot of it had to do with learning, I guess. And probably the biggest thing I found was I was trying to use a TT323, yeah, TT323 C5 gold. Okay, and it's just an interstate, it's just a cheap one. And I was having a heck of a time, and I think part of that comes down to there's no real chip breaker right on the nose radius. Okay, so this does good attacking from, you know, one side or the other, but not from straight on. Okay, and where that comes into play is the way I have the tool set up. As I come from in here and come down here, the cut changes. Okay, and so when I'm right in here, I'm right on that nose, and I was having a heck of a time with that. So what I did was I changed it out to a TT321, and I need to order more of these. And that solved most of my issues. I am getting great surface finish. I've upped the cut to be pretty, fairly aggressive. I don't know if you can see that, but that is, oops, that is an 18 thou step over, and I'm running at a 20 thou per rev feed rate. Okay, that's making for a 52-second cycle time on this side of the part. So I don't have any slugs left, you know, of how it looked on the raw side. Okay, but basically what it needs to do is come down here and fit on there beautifully like that. And the radius doesn't match this radius perfect. It doesn't need to. The factory ones are just chamfered. Okay, I'm putting a radius in there, fillet, to just keep more meat. You know, that's the only reason. Just maintain more mass, you know, so at the cross section here it doesn't get thin or weak up here. That's a big reason why I radius that too, because the back of the bearing has a radius, so that fits on the bearing, and that allows a newer bearing to fit on the older kingpin spindle. Okay, nice. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so this is off the machine, second op, no Scotch-Brite or anything. So I'm tickled pink with that. Okay, there, I think you can just make out, you can see tool marks here. You know, I run it at, I forget what I run it at, 8 thou per rev feed rate. So, maybe more than that. I'd have to look. It doesn't matter. Basically, I changed the feed and speed until I quit getting a burr. And what I found is that the more aggressive I ran it, the less burr I got. Okay? So, because what it's doing then is it's cutting and peeling the metal away instead of rubbing and pushing. Okay, and that's probably out of focus again, but I'm very happy with this part. Now, there's this part could go into service exactly like this, but I will make a point, just because every now and then there's a tiny, I don't even know if you can see it. I can just barely feel that there's the tiniest little burr right there. So before they come off, I will Scotch-Brite these, just to kind of make them all uniform and that stuff. And here you can kind of see the difference. The one on the left had a couple seconds of Scotch-Brite, and the one on the right had Scotch-Brite. The one on the left didn't. Okay. All right. I need to shoot some video of the chamfer, and then I think I can just get to cranking out parts.